The soft glow of my computer monitor cast an eerie light on the walls of my dimly lit room. The clock on the wall ticked away the seconds, each one amplifying the stillness that hung in the air. I sat in front of the screen, my fingers tapping impatiently on the keyboard. The cursor blinked tauntingly, waiting for my next move. It was just another night of gaming, or so I thought. I had stumbled upon a mysterious game called Whispering Shadows on an obscure forum. The description promised an immersive horror experience like no other. Intrigued and always in search of a thrill, I downloaded the game without a second thought. Little did I know that this seemingly innocent decision would lead me down a path of terror that I could never have imagined. As the game loaded, an unsettling silence filled my room. The title screen appeared, depicting a desolate forest shrouded in fog. The haunting melody that accompanied the visuals sent shivers down my spine. Ignoring the initial unease, I clicked the New Game button. The screen went black for a moment, and then I found myself standing in the middle of an abandoned village. The graphics were eerily realistic, and the attention to detail was unsettling. The wind whispered through the skeletal remains of the buildings, creating an atmosphere of dread. My character, clad in tattered clothing, held a flickering lantern that barely illuminated the surrounding darkness. As I explored the village, a sense of foreboding gripped me. The silence was broken only by the crunch of my character's footsteps on the gravel-covered ground. Windows creaked in the wind, and distant ghostly whispers echoed through the deserted streets. The atmosphere was so convincing that I could almost feel the cold, damp air seeping through the screen. The objective of the game was unclear, but I pressed on, drawn deeper into the virtual nightmare. The village seemed to stretch endlessly, its twisted alleys leading to dead ends or mysterious doorways. Shadows danced along the walls, and the feeling of being watched intensified with each passing moment. Suddenly, the lantern flickered and went out. Darkness enveloped my screen, and my heart raced as I desperately tried to reignite it. A distant, echoing laughter reverberated through the virtual world, sending a chill down my spine. When the lantern finally flickered back to life, the village had transformed. Gnarled trees sprouted from the cracked cobblestone streets, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The moon cast an unnatural glow, turning the shadows into grotesque figures that seemed to writhe in the dim light. Unsettled, I continued my journey, the in-game world unraveling into a nightmare. I stumbled upon a decrepit mansion at the edge of the village. Its grandeur was long gone, replaced by rotting wood and broken windows. Reluctantly, I entered the forsaken building, the floorboards creaking beneath my character's weight. The air inside was heavy with the stench of decay, and a low, guttural growl echoed from somewhere unseen. As I explored the mansion's twisted corridors, I felt a growing sense of dread. The walls seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, and ghostly apparitions flickered in and out of existence. The game blurred the lines between reality and fiction, leaving me questioning whether I was still sitting in my room or trapped within the digital nightmare. A sudden noise jolted me from my thoughts. It was a faint, rhythmic tapping, like the sound of claws on wood. I cautiously followed the sound, my senses on high alert. The tapping led me to a decaying library, where a flickering candle illuminated an ancient tome lying open on a dusty table. As I approached the book, the tapping grew louder, now accompanied by an ominous whispering. The words on the pages seemed to writhe, forming a grotesque narrative that told of a malevolent force that had been unleashed upon the village. My character's fate was intertwined with the ancient curse, and the only way to escape was to confront the darkness head-on. With each passing moment, the in-game horror seeped into my reality. The tapping became a real sound, echoing in my room. The whispers grew louder, as if the malevolent force from the game had breached the digital realm. I felt a cold breath on the back of my neck, and I could swear I saw shadowy figures in the corners of my room. Fear paralyzed me, but the game relentlessly pushed me forward. The virtual world and my reality converged in a nightmarish fusion. The boundaries between the two became indistinguishable, and I questioned whether I was still in control, or if the game had taken on a life of its own. In a final act of desperation, my character reached the heart of the mansion, a chamber shrouded in darkness. The tapping and whispers reached a deafening crescendo, and a monstrous figure emerged from the shadows. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly malice, and its elongated limbs moved with an unnatural grace. The screen went black, and a single word appeared in crimson letters: confront. A chill ran down my spine as I hesitated, my real-world surroundings blending with the impending dread of the game. The decision weighed on me like a heavy anchor. With a deep breath, I pressed the key, and the virtual and real worlds collided in a symphony of terror. The room plunged into darkness. The tapping and whispers intensified, merging with the nightmarish soundscape of the game. I felt a presence in the room, something that transcended the digital boundaries. The air grew thick with an otherworldly energy, and I could almost see the shadows converging into a tangible form. The screen flickered, and I found myself back in the village, the curse seemingly lifted. The air was still, and the moon cast a soft glow on the now serene surroundings. The virtual nightmare had come to an end, leaving me breathless and disoriented. As I sat in the darkness of my room, the lingering unease refused to dissipate. The clock on the wall resumed its ticking, but the silence that followed was deafening. I questioned the reality around me, wondering if I had truly escaped the clutches of the game, or if it had left an indelible mark on my perception. The computer monitor still glowed softly, reflecting the faintest hint of fear in my eyes. I closed the game, but its haunting presence lingered in the corners of my mind. The boundary between the virtual and the real had blurred, leaving me to grapple with the unsettling question: had I experienced a mere game, or had the game experienced me?